Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 5th of September, and well, our upside bias worked out just fine. Moved back to the peaks there. We could see that we were struggling with some, interrupted modes, but at the end of the day, you didn't have any real short activity. There wasn't any impetus. So you've got to have a reason for negative view. Now, of course, some people can always come up with negative. That's a popular theme, but broadly, you're seeing greater investment. You're going to see probably weak unemployment numbers, which will help justify the Fed making a move. Of course, the question becomes then, will the Fed actually do that, and or will they just say, "Hey, we're not sure"? And that's a very likely possibility as well. And I think the market is a bit uncertain about that as well. But you can see magenta clearly above yellow on the MBI, and so that's by configuration. You also now have blue over the gray, which is critical, but it needs to pass this previous level right here, and that becomes a congruency. So same concept with the shakeout. We've started a new histogram, but that pretty much eliminates what has been done because it's been reset. So, but as we talked about, this dip below the red line didn't happen like over here where it was a bit more weakness. You got it only down, and that's why it's green, because those create nice little boosts, and that's exactly what we saw happen from it. So that was all pretty clean. NASDAQ catching up to the ES, relatively speaking, is a little bit behind from highs, but it was also outperforming. So it's relative. But you can see a crossover of steel over cyan. That's critical as well. Still negative shakeout, but it's improving. So you're building a momentum, and it's perfect timing with new fund money coming in. So it actually was all just perfect alignment with all of that. You can see treasuries. I mean, we haven't moved from this range-bound state for months now, and that's just the Fed absenteeism at this particular stage in this battle over who the Fed governors are going to be. But the fate of oil, we had projected it with the move to zero line with the MBI white, just waiting for it. Hasn't happened still, but slowly moving in the right direction. Um, you know, just doesn't quite have the impetus speed at this particular stage. From a euro, everyone's still excited because the euro is announcing how they're going to be spending lots and lots of money to go and put troops on the ground in Ukraine and various aspects. So they're going to be spending like banshees, and somehow that's a positive for the euro because obviously if they're going to be spending them, people are going to be taking. From a gold standpoint, still the peaks, and then as deficit numbers come through, and particularly if Trump's tariffs are blocked, that's going to be a nightmare because you have the big beautiful bill. You got to match that with what the revenue increase from tariffs was. Without them, the deficit numbers get really ugly fast, unless they're able to cut. But you don't hear really anything about Doge anymore doing any kind of cutting. And maybe it's just not popular news at this particular state. It could be doing something, we don't know. There's this constant fight over whether or not all the previous spending they were trying to pull back was done. But it's still minor amounts of money. I mean, yes, it adds up over time with the billions, but aggregately for what they're spending on defense, everything else, it's a minuscule effect. Bitcoin, holding steady in that move. You've got that short cover rally taking place a little bit here with the MBI white, magenta over yellow. So it's kind of like just riding it along. We'll see if it's able to break up even further from there. And ETH, of course, mimicking that, but it's already well ahead of the game. So maybe the I guess what you want to call it would be the transfer from Bitcoin to ETH has sort of been complete from the bigger whales, and now they're just in their normal phase again. You no longer have that selling pressure on Bitcoin because it's done. So from our 50K, pretty straightforward. You had an MBI white spike that faded pretty quick with magenta still leading yellow on it, so it didn't produce a whole lot of anything. And once magenta came back above, that's the rally we saw right there. It's continued nicely from that. So that was all pretty clean from that standpoint. In fact, let me just enlarge this so we get a little closer view. There we go. Nice to look at that. That was all pretty clean. You can see the clear breakout above the peak levels. So Short activity still minuscule, cyan into red. We already know that, and that happened during the dip, which made it even better signal. But you can see that shakeout was so strong. All positive extremes. So yes, we will get a retrace, and that's a matter of just going to where that is, and you know where your number is right down there. But likely you've got the stronger ones that are most likely to get filled earlier, which would take you back into just under the 45 range. Not too far from where it's at. I mean, we're not talking anything dramatic. You can see from an intraday standpoint of the 5 minute, even tighter. It was all bulls on that. So all the negative put action pretty much wiped out for the week, which means that for Friday, you could see some reversion back. It depends on how the lopsided the book was. And when we look at it from the European session, it's soft at this particular stage. So all set for the open. As always, anything relevant, I'll put it on our team chat. Have a good one. Trade well.